back. Once again, we're on with the Black Comic Lords in the building, and we have another dope interview for all of you. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our channel if you like our content. Like and subscribe the videos, and please share them across your social media. I got with me Mr. James Thomason. Hello,
Hey
sir.
everybody.
One
Hey,
of our
what's going
most
on, Paul?
esteemed members in Black Comic Lore decided to join me for a very special interview. You know, we've been around in Black Comic Lords a little over 2.5 years now, almost 3 years.
Yep.
And the very first interview we did on Zoom, I think it was, and I think this might even been during the pandemic, was with Mr. Kevin Grevioux. He was our very first one. He was
I remember
kind
that
enough
interview.
to lend of his time to share with us. And from that, we've gotten a lot of dope interviews since. But he started the whole thing, and I'm tremendously and overly grateful to him for that. But so he has decided to grace us again with his presence and talk about some of the new stuff he's got going. He's got a lot of great stuff coming out. For those of you who are not familiar, which I can't imagine any of you aren't, but for the sake of argument, understand this brother's tremendously intelligent. Graduated from Howard University in Washington, in D.C., with a degree in
Mhm.
microbiology and minors in both chemistry and psychology. He also studied genetic engineering in grad school. So all the techno speak you hear in the comics that he has written, that's coming from someone who actually knows what he's talking about. He really got started doing some acting work. I remember him tremendously from seeing him in bit parts, particularly on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He played security guard. But a
I
lot of
do
you are
remember that.
familiar with him from his time on the movie Underworld, playing
Hmm.
Reeves, the Lycan, or as I call him, the black dude in Underworld. Is how we normally
Yeah.
say. Kevin wasn't just an actor in that. I believe he was the co-screenwriter and co-creator of that series of films, and a producer, associate producer as well. Um, he's also done I Frankenstein. We're going to get into that, but very talented brother. But as we know him tremendously from writing comic books, which we're going to get into in a second. So without further ado, let me just get to it. I'd like to introduce you all to Mr. Kevin Grevioux.
Hey, how you brothers doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing, sir?
Wonderful. Thank you for
Good. I'm
joining us,
good.
sir.
I'm good. I'm good.
So we were going through a little bit of your history. I wanted to bring up this slide of some of the things that you've worked on in case people aren't
Right.
aware of that. So you mentioned here you worked on Underworld.
Yes. That was my first produced screen credit,
Right,
for writing.
right. And you and Len Wiseman, I think were I think you met on a set of a different television show or a movie or something.
Yeah. Lynn and I met on Stargate, I think it was. And I was an extra on Stargate. And he was a prop assistant. And he thought I was someone who I was not. And, so I told him, I'm just a nobody. And we started talking about the different films that we liked. I found out we had a common interest in horror and science fiction. And so
Right.
that's how we became friends.
And you weren't just an actor; you were the co-screenwriter and associate producer. Is that correct?
Yeah. The whole thing, really, I got to give credit to Lynn because he was at ICM, I think it was, as a director, and he had not done his first film yet. He had just done music videos. And so he had a meeting over at, I think it was Dimension Films, and they wanted to do a werewolf movie because Blade had done so well for the vampire genre. So, ICM had been sending him a bunch of bad scripts. So he called me up and he was like, well, look, Dimension wants to do a werewolf movie. What do you think? And I'm like, not much, you know. And the reason I say that is because there had, you know, werewolves really aren't sexy, in the cool sense of the term. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the movies that, a lot of it depends upon the makeup design, how matted the hair is, things like that. So there've only been like 2 or 3 movies that you can speak of that were any good.
Right.
Of course, American Werewolf in London,
Yeah.
Howling, and maybe you want to mention the original Wolfman movie,
Right.
in the 40s. That was mentioned. And so I came up with an idea that he liked, and we were going over that. And towards the end of our session, I told him, we can't go in there with just one idea, because this is a good opportunity and we have to have another idea. He was like, well, I'm tapped out. I don't have anything. I said, well, listen, I've been thinking about this idea. And I said, what if we do a Romeo and Juliet story? But instead of Montagues and Capulets, we have werewolves on one side, but vampires on the other.
Right.
And make it kind of like this star-crossed, surrealistic love story, interracial love story that took place over the expanse of a 600-year-old race war. You know what I'm saying? And so he didn't think it would work, and of course I wrote the original screenplay, and that got the ball rolling, but I wasn't represented at the time. So, other writers brought in things like that. But
had you written any other screenplays at that point?
Yeah, I actually wrote a draft of the Black Panther movie.
Really?
Wow.
That John Singleton was supposed to be directing when Wesley Snipes was supposed to be T'Challa.
Wow.
But you're talking 1992. You know what I'm saying? That was 92, and I think it was Island Pictures that was going to be producing it. So yeah, I had written that, and of course I had done a lot of other, spec scripts, but Underworld was my first produced, writing credit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're known. Look, that's one of the most original takes ever done with those characters.
And I was mad when your character in the first one, he had screen time, but then they got rid of him. I was like, what happened?
Say that again now.
What was that you said, James?
No, I was saying that in the first movie, it was him, acting, and it seemed like it was brief because, like, the interaction with the action and everything. But later on, it's like they got rid of your character. I mean, I was glad they brought you back. Technically, you came back.
Yeah. A lot of that has to do. Yeah, a lot of that has to do with, studio, or I should say politics, within production companies, things like that. Those are the things that happen. And, you just have to roll with the punches. That's why, when you do a project, you got to make sure everyone's on the same page. Everyone likes each other, because no one likes each other now.
Yeah, Eon 001 said, I heard Underworld and I, Frankenstein were supposed to be part of a shared universe. Is that true?
Well, here's what happened. I created I, Frankenstein, and I wanted to bridge a gap between Underworld and where I, Frankenstein was originally going. And, so I wrote a version with, it being in the same universe as Underworld, and then wrote one where it was just standalone. And, the producers did not like it being tied to Underworld. Now, I found, and I was really upset about that because the story was perfect.
I have a comment on that.
At least my original one. But what happened is that when I talked to one of the sales agents later on, I said, why did you guys nix that idea? He says, Kevin, it was a brilliant idea. The problem is that Underworld was being distributed by Sony Screen Gems. And with I, Frankenstein, they were going through Lionsgate. So there was no way to merge the two together. And that's why they nixed the idea.
But
it was cool.
Here's the thing with that. Weren't both of these properties licensed to Lionsgate and Sony from Universal?
No.
And the reason it was not, the reason I asked that is because
Universal has no claim on any monster in terms of its original origin. Now, maybe the expression of those characters, like for instance, Frankenstein, the bolts on the neck, they own that.
Right.
But you can have a Frankenstein with bolts on the forehead. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Or other places. They don't own werewolves. They don't own vampires. They don't own mummies. None of
it's
that
pretty
stuff.
Much public domain type stuff now.
Yeah. But even then, I mean, Mary Shelley, she created Frankenstein in like 1812 or 1817.
Mm-hmm.
They have no claim on that.
The reason I mention that is because Universal, after you had pitched your tied-in universe, Universal tried to do that afterwards. With Tom Cruise. And The Mummy Returns, and they try to create their Universal Monsters universe, much the same way that Marvel did its MCU. They wanted to do the same thing with the Monster Universe. So they kind of stole your idea.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, look, I got the idea from them, you could say, because they created House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula, where, they had all the monsters fighting. You see what I'm saying? Right. And you had Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So, we all kind of, pull from one another and try to merge things. The problem is, when it comes to genre, especially, I mean, well, before I even get into that, film is a very, very, very collaborative industry. You know what I'm saying? And no one person, unless you're, maybe Steven Spielberg or George Lucas, can do everything on their own and have the power to tell people, no, we're doing it this way.
Right.
But if you're a young bloke like myself, back when I, created, I, Frankenstein and Underworld, you have to listen to the people who have this. And if they have this, then you have no power. And, I tried to tell them, here's what we could do. And the producer's like, no, that's not going to work. I mean, look, I had to convince Lynn that Underworld could work. And he was a genre guy. We had to convince people around town that werewolves and vampires could work. And, Underworld got passed on by everybody. Everybody. Why? New director, new writer, it's not going to work. A lot of people, including the producer of Underworld, I remember him coming to me and saying, well, people be able to understand the difference between the Lycans and the vampires. And we're on set shooting. And I'm like, you're asking me this now. But this was a guy who passed on it twice before and had to be convinced by another person because the script came into Lakeshore through a back channel. And that's when they said, well, maybe there's something here that we don't understand. And that's how it got done. But, you have to understand a lot of these producers, they didn't grow up liking comic books, monster movies, robots, aliens. They didn't. Most of them are just pencil pushers, number guys, people who thought they could make a lot of money, maybe had a love of movies, but not genre films. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so you have to deal with their own limitations of what they know. Like we've been saying, comic book movies can make good movies, for decades, but they didn't understand that. And now look what happened. Now that's all the studios want to make.
Lord of Brooklyn asked if you could maybe do a Kickstarter with your monster universe. And then I think about you've got your own film
I,
company too.
Yeah, I plan to.
There you go.
But of course, ultimately, you need the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And working independently, it can be difficult. That can be a tall order. So we'll see what happens. But as far as comic books, yes, I am going to be doing a lot of my IPs through comics and then taking them to the movies.
Well, speaking of money, wanted to give a big shout out to Mr. Bo Big HB for the $5 super chat. Appreciate that, brother.
Appreciate it.
We had a question here from 9.8. 9.8. Jesus. That's creative. Hey, Kevin, Blue Marvel and the character and story is so dope. Will you ever write anything again for that character? We'll get into that. We'll get into that later.
Okay.
I know a lot of people got a lot of questions about Blue Marvel. We'll get back to that. Let's see. Eon #1 says, "What was the projected storylines in the Frankenstein franchise?" I've always wondered where the story would go.
Yeah. I am saving that one. Hopefully, Lord willing, you'll find out after the strikes are over.
Yeah, don't let anyone steal his ideas, man. Don't let anybody steal his ideas.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so let's. I mean, as I said, you've done these films, but we're about comics, so let's move on. So we mentioned Blue Marvel, but there's a lot of comic books. I mean, when I was preparing for this, I was reading through your writing history, as it were, and there was stuff that I didn't even realize that you'd written on. You've written on like a lot of comics. You're most known, I think it's fair to say, in our space for Blue Marvel, but there's a lot of comic books that you've written. One of the series I really loved was Odyssey of the Amazons, which I've had.
Okay.
Let me tell y'all, if you're a fan of Wonder Woman or Nubia, this series takes place before kind of both of them. In fact, I would take it a step further. If you're a fan of swashbuckle, swords and sandals and sorcerers genre, like Conan the Barbarian, Odyssey of the Amazons is your book. I love fiction that's kind of based on sort of history, if it makes sense. And swords and sandals, and this series is just really, really outstanding with a black lead character named Hesia. You did a story in Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Can you tell people about what that is? A lot of people don't know about that.
Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm thinking of the New Warriors Secret Invasion. You're talking about the What If.
The What If Secret Invasion.
If I can remember, dude, I can't remember what the story was. But it was a chance to do What If, and I think it was my second What If. Yeah, because I did another What If about what was the event before Secret Invasion?
Civil War.
Yeah. I did a Civil War What If. And so, the editor hired me again to do What If Secret Invasion. And, really, I can't even remember the story, believe it or not.
Well, it had to do with, Reed Richards was killed before escaping. It's basically the Skrulls won the secret invasion.
Okay.
And they had to invade, you co-wrote it with Carl Ballers as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
It
was What If the Skrulls had actually won? And I just thought people would be interested in that because they just did this whole Secret Invasion television show.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? It was an interesting time at Marvel. I had a brief run at Marvel. I think it spanned 3 years or so, maybe trickled into 4. Just trying to find my footing. In fact, the Blue Marvel was part of my trying to feel out Marvel to see how long I could stay.
Right.
One of the things happened when I was at Marvel is that there was an issue about sharing the characters. You know what I'm saying? And there was really no place to go because all the slots were filled. You know, you couldn't use characters that might have that might be under the jurisdiction of another office, things like that. So the Blue Marvel was kind of my way of saying, you know what, I need to create. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, so I need to create a space for myself where I can play in that character's universe, so to speak. And so I had this concept that I had created since I was, when I was 12, and decided, hey, maybe this is a time to bring it to Marvel and see what they say. You know what I'm saying? And Joe Quesada went for it. Tom Brevoort pitched it to Tom Brevoort. He loved the idea. They pitched it to Joe. And before you know it, we were off to the races.
And that concept was what?
Blue Marvel.
The Blue Marvel.
Yeah.
Arguably one of Marvel's most powerful superheroes.
Yes.
Now, I have a question with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the whole series, I mean, I actually had found a #1 a long time ago, and I read it and I enjoyed it. So I had to hunt down the rest of the books before I went crazy.
Yeah.
So I lucked out and got a set a while ago. My question is, it always drove me nuts though, because I would see it. The first issue, it says 1 of 6, but then it ended at 5. Did you have plans for 6 issues and beyond?
Okay, yeah.
Like, did you want to expand it?
Yeah. I had planned for 6 issues. In fact, when I talked to Tom Brevoort that first time, all the material I wanted to put in it, it was going to be 8 issues. But 8 issues is not really their business model.
Right.
So, they said no, 6. The problem was I got a call from one of the editors, I think the same week it premiered, and they said, you know what, it's not selling very well. We're going to knock it down to 5. And so I said 5, and that cut out a lot of cool stuff I had.
Yeah.
And so what happened, I said, well, can I make the 5th issue a double-sized issue at least? And they said yes. So really, you might be missing 12 pages of what I would have done with the 6 issue mini instead of the 5 issue.
Right. And I'm not going to ask you what you had planned in those 12 issues.
I was thinking about it.
Because, I know that you have not had an opportunity to return to the character in some time.
Yeah.
For a long time, I have up on the screen Age of Heroes. I forget which issue number it is.
That's number 3. I have
number 3.
And
for a long time, I thought that was the last work that you had done on Blue Marvel. That's in that storyline. You kind of see him in his underwater headquarters, and he's ruminating about life and what have you.
Yeah.
Then in preparing for this, I found out that there was another book that you had done, which was actually your last work for Marvel on Blue Marvel, and that's The Sphere Itself, The Homefront.
Yes.
Please tell us about it, because let me give this one lead in for the audience. One of the criticisms that are people, or the issues that people have with Blue Marvel, and this is not just from the audience perspective, this is within the book itself.
I understand.
Is the idea that, for those of you who are not familiar with the character, all the way back in the 1950s and 60s, he becomes powerful. He gets his superpowers. He was already a soldier, brilliant man. But when it's revealed that he has these powers to the general public, President Kennedy asked him to stand down, because America and the world was not ready for a superpowered being of that magnitude who was black. And so he asked him to stand down. And being the patriot that he is, and kind of recognizing the times, he followed the orders of the president and stood down. And for a lot of African Americans, like what happened afterwards with Kennedy being assassinated and the civil rights movement, and then you've got Malcolm X getting assassinated, and then you got Martin Luther King getting assassinated, and the trials and tribulations. It's like you sat through all of that, all that pain and suffering, and you did nothing. And so he took a lot of heat for that, both from the audience, fans, but also within the story. And I thought this was a great way that you sort of captured that sort of criticism of the character. Because you have in this story, this scene between this captain and him. Can you tell us about this?
Okay, so from what I remember, I mean, of course you're right. There was both fan reality or reaction, and also, the reality and the reaction of the character from within the comic books. And a lot of that was me trying to address the real life issues surrounding Black superheroes. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And why we never had like a powerful Black superhero since the beginning. Why did it take Marvel so long to create one? And I wanted to insert him into Marvel's back history and then bring him along later when there was a character or a villain that the Avengers, just couldn't handle. But, from the story we get that, well, he's been here before. How was he dealt with then? And that's when they find the Blue Marvel. Now, my thing is, like a lot of people didn't even like the name Blue Marvel, but I wanted a name that sounded like it was created back during that time,
right,
when they were naming Black characters by their color. You see what I'm saying? And so I tried to incorporate a lot of that now. My thing is that I had storylines where we saw what the Blue Marvel was doing during the time he was in public absentia, So, I can't give it away what I was doing, but he was definitely not inactive. But he, chose to retire from public, doing public things that people could see. But he was working in the background, and Marvel would let me do it. But they let Al Ewing do it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you have to understand. That's the way corporate comics work. You know what I'm saying? They might let this person do something.
Speak on it.
But another person, they're like, no.
Right.
You can't, for a myriad of different reasons. And I've talked to different, creators, be they white or Black, and they all have the same story. This, this isn't what you think it is. This is not, how do I say this?
Speak on it. Go ahead.
The comic book industry isn't like the way Stan Lee described it in his soapbox about the bullpen, the Marvel bullpen, which, we grew to believe there was a bunch of cool guys sitting around all day talking about comic books and laughing all day. No, it is a business, not business, business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the way they operate. And then, within that business, you have, your concomitant politics, you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. That's like, well, you know what? Hey, that's just the way it is.
Right.
And you have to play the game. I mean, some people want to put a racial spin on it. I don't think that's it. But I know, some white guys who have told me some of their stories, writers and artists, and they are not pretty.
Right.
They are not pretty. So it's one of the things that, I've learned my lesson, because even a couple of people came to me and said that they were kind of upset that I had given Blue Marvel to Marvel. They said, you should have kept it for yourself. But I did not have the, I did not have the creative infrastructure that Marvel has in order to make it as popular as they would have ordinarily. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And like I said, there are things that Marvel missed out on that we could have done. I mean, one of the things that I was told, here's the thing, for whatever reason, the release of Blue Marvel was pushed back. Now, the way I had it is that one of the things I will share with you is that within that 12 issues, I was going, that 12 pages, I was going to, say for the 6th issue, President Bush was going to reinstate him officially. You know what I'm saying? Here's what happened. But since it was pushed back, guess who was president-elect? Barack Obama.
Okay.
So I was going to have Obama reinstate him.
Oh man, that would have been so dope.
And the sales would have gone through the roof.
That would have been so dope.
Marvel did not want me to have those sales.
Oh God, that would have been so
There were people in the company that said, hey, they're not sure what happened, but we all know.
They could still retroactively do that. They could still retroactively do a flashback.
But you know what? But it would not have the same impact.
Right.
It would not have the same impact. I mean, Blue Marvel #1 came out the day after Obama got elected president.
I never realized that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
The day after.
Wow.
And so, it's just one of those things. But when you do corporate comics, these are some of the things that happen. The characters aren't yours. No matter how cool you think they are, or how much coolness you think you can bring to them. It doesn't work that way.
There's a couple questions here from the chat I want to bring up.
Yeah.
One of them is, have you followed Adam's adventures since you left Marvel?
Semi. Some of the things I'm kind of salty about, because once you set the table with a particular character and you're setting things up for your future use, smart writers can look at those and say, you know what? I think I know where he was going and I have something else I want to add to it. And they could hit that button that you were going to hit, but they beat you to the punch because, you couldn't get to the character. That happens, so like, for instance, the Ultimates. I pitched a series, a Blue Marvel series, where you would use him like the kind of like the Silver Age Superman, where I would incorporate super science into his story. And, him going around the universe solving these different scientific mysteries or what have you. And then they come out with the Ultimates. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the first thing they did was, and I was like, man, and then I had an idea about I'm going to say this, but I did it kind of in a clandestine fashion. I said, look, you have all these Avengers books, why not create a Black Avengers? And I was going to call it Avengers Black Ops. And basically they would do things, and I had it all set up. And of course, Marvel said no, and then gave it to Al Ewing, where he had, New Avengers as pretty much the Black Avengers with almost the identical
the same
lineup, you see. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be giving them any more of my ideas.
Right.
Because
that's why I said I don't want you to share anything. You had enough taken from you.
Exactly. It's happened too much. And I heard, it's funny, when the last time it happened, I remember John Byrne saying that was his problem. He's seen too many of his ideas just pilfered and taken by other people. Yeah. And then some of the modern writers I know now told me the same things happened to them. And the company doesn't care, because to the company, they're just ideas. But to writers or creators, they're ideas that you can use later on elsewhere. either for another story at Marvel or somewhere else or your own IP. You see what I'm saying?
And we're gonna get into that with your Darkstorm, because that's
okay.
It's kind of like its own sort of sweet revenge, honestly. we'll get into that. We'll get into that. One of the comments we have here is the message board: battles over Blue Marvel and its power levels are still heated. Do you ever hear? I know you're on our page and you see some of the comments people make, particularly when Blue Marvel's mentioned.
Yeah.
Just how strong do you, in your mind, do you think he is?
Well, here's my thing. I think if you look at your top tier characters, you know, Thor, Hulk, Superman, Black Adam, you know, Blue Marvel could be all of them, but all of them could also be Blue Marvel. You see what I'm saying? So the way it is, he's just in that conversation. That's the way I wanted it. And I wanted to play it like it was, okay, you know, he has a legitimate place amongst these top tier characters, because, you know, prior to the Blue Marvel, I'm not sure you had a very powerful Black character, you know, male character. You had Storm, you know, you had Monica Rambeau, but, you know, where was the brother with that power? You know, T'Challa didn't have it.
Not on a consistent basis. There was a character, I think his name is Maximus.
I mean, even Luke Cage in the first Marvel universe, you know, they didn't even list his strength level.
Yeah.
Then in the second one, they said he could lift 3 tons, but, you know, he fought Spider-Man to a standstill once. And so it's like, what's going on here? Why not? We're the brothers, you know?
Right.
And so my job was, you know, I felt, was to kind of change that and give us a Black Marvel hero that we can look at and say, yeah, but what about Blue Marvel? What about Adam Bashir? You see what I'm saying?
And most importantly, you gave the brother a cape. For those who are into comics, they know the significance of a superhero character with a cape. It's a mantle. It's a sign of like hierarchy in the comic book world when you have a cape. And I love that. I love that you have it. I hate the fact that they took his cape away from him.
Yeah, my man's sporting a jacket now. I don't know.
Yeah. You know what, man?
They gave the moniker.
Yeah. You know, costumes are difficult. You know, what's going to work? There are some costumes that, you know, over the years, different characters have had where I like the original one better than the one they created later on, you know. Right. And they can't, like, for instance, Wonder Man. They've been trying to figure out Wonder Man's costume since I was a kid, you know, and his first one was the best. But he stayed in that, you know, red jacket, safari jacket so long. And I think that kind of changed his character into something other than what he was in the beginning. But, you know, that's my opinion. You know, I don't own the character. So, you know, you got to deal with what they do, you know, and that's just the way it is.
James, you had some questions on this, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, most of it you kind of answered, but when it came down to Blue Marvel himself, I know that you explained why you came up with the character and put him in that space. And I know you had other plans that, you know, we can't go too much into, obviously, from the 12 pages. But if you had an opportunity, would you go back and write those stories? Like, I'm saying, if Marvel, like, for some reason, you know.
I definitely would. But I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely would, but, you know, just because of the, you know, the politics involved in giving up your ideas. And, you know, because like once again, I said before, a lot of these writers, you know, which is one of the reasons why I don't think comic books are as fun anymore, is because a lot of the writers don't want to give their good ideas to Marvel and DC, knowing that if they're too good, they're going to get made into a movie and they're not going to get paid.
Right.
So, you know, so it's better just to I'm not going to say phone it in, but give them just enough. You know what I'm saying?
Which
but
would
the good stuff you keep for yourself.
Which would explain my feelings toward many Marvel comics today, is that
exactly
it's just very subpar and lackluster. What they're producing.
They don't feel like fun anymore. Some of them
no. And but exactly. But not only that, there's something else going on too, which is something I don't know if anyone can do anything about. And you know, a lot of it has to do with the more time that passes, the further removed these up and coming editors and writers get from the original founders or creators of the characters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they don't have the same, you know, attraction to them as maybe we did. Like, for instance, so when I started reading, I came to the comics game kind of late. So I was 12 years old. I had been into models, you know, and Monsters, Ultraman, and all that stuff before, Speed Racer, Hot Wheels, you know. So I was into something else, and I had seen comics before, and I had a few, but it was like, you know. But you know, once I got into them when I was 12, you know, it opened up another world. But it also wasn't that expensive to go back and get what I had missed out on. When I started reading the Fantastic Four, for instance, and this was 1975, I think they were on issue 162. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. And you could get the back issues from 2 years ago for 35 cents a piece. And so, you know, I think I paid what? I think I paid $5 for I paid $5 for Silver Surfer #1. Wow. $2 for Silver Surfer #4.
Yeah.
You know, those comics were nothing to get to. And a lot of the books I bought from change that fell out of my father's pocket, you know, when he fell asleep on the couch. You know what I'm saying? And so it's easy. But now kids, you know, like, you know, I know some writers who were telling me that the editor they were working on didn't think his dialogue sounded like the Hulk. And it's like, well, you do realize if you read these issues, you know, 104 to 133, look at this speech pattern. It's the same. Well, you know, that was a long time ago. Nah, this is the Hulk. Have you read those issues? No, they don't read those issues. You know, to them, the Hulk started, you know, during Peter David's run in the 90s. You know, and they're not going to go back and read all that history. And some of that I understand, but the reality is that, hey, look, if you're not going to build on what has been created before, then you're going to be all over the place and you're not going to have any rules. So your characters are going to be inconsistent. You can imbue them with any personality that you want to. And so you can't read, you know, they don't read the same way. And because we live in a system where things are politically correct, where, you know, you have a lot of, how do I say this? Okay, so I'm an old man. When I was growing up, we fought. You know what I'm saying? I mean, with these, you see what I'm saying? These kids nowadays, I doubt if the writers have ever gotten in a real fight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. As a result, your action is going to be piss poor. You know, they don't understand how it is that people behave, things like that, you know. But you know what? It is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I want to take a quick second to acknowledge Hold the Truth Hostage and Wraith X7 for their super chat contributions. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I don't want to monopolize all your time on Blue Marvel because there's a lot more interesting things that you've worked on that I want to get into. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. There's this movie coming out called The Marvels. With Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, Monica Rambeau, and Ms. Marvel in it. Have you gotten an invite to the premiere?
No, not at all. Not
you
at
have
all.
not.
No.
All right, that was a trick question because if I know that if look, at the very minimum, Marvel usually has gotten into the habit of inviting creators of characters that are going to be in the movie to the premieres. And if you have not gotten an invite, a lot of us in the Black comic community are really, really, really hoping and praying that, given the fact that Blue Marvel and Monica Rambeau were together in the comics, that he might make a cameo in this film. So if you haven't got an invite, that does not.
But you know what? Because of the Blue Marvel story, that would be a wasted opportunity if they did that. Because of the political gravitas of his story, it deserves his own movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna have to get an actor with the stature and the chops to pay that off.
Yeah.
And I heard they didn't even give this brother a name yet. Now I doubt if they're saving it. I know that Nate Moore, who is a Black guy who works in Marvel, has mentioned the Blue Marvel in the press. But I don't know if that means anything, or not.
Dothverse asks, who would you cast as Blue Marvel? Because they have this actor who's this brother who's been attached to the film. He's actually Shamar Anderson.
Anderson? I think he played Mr. Nobody
in the John Wick movie.
Yeah. I don't think that would be him. I mean, look, the way I look at Adam Bashir, when I first brought him over to Marvel, I was looking at someone like Dennis Haysbert.
Yes.
Who's every bit, back then, who's every bit of 6'6". You know what I'm saying? And he has the voice and the presence and the gravitas.
And I know you know something about having a voice.
Yeah. So he was one of the guys I looked at. I do like Yahya Madin, but he's playing Wonder Man, so that's out. And I really don't know, Aldous Hodge. But look, because of Blue Marvel's age, even though he looks younger than he actually is, because he's in his 90s, if not over a shade over 100, I still want him to look like he's about 45 or 50. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we can see that he's from a bygone era, but he still has it in him, still has it in him.
All right. So let's move on to our next topic here, Mr. Producer. So we talked about the fact that Marvel has not necessarily done the best of jobs when it comes to creator IP.
Right.
Well, you have had success in your own imprint. Darkstorm Comics is a company that you created.
Right.
And you've got a lot of your personal IP that you've been creating in there. And a very popular one was Bass Reeves, which I might add, one of the things I loved about this book has nothing to do with the book, but the concept that you had this book, I guess whatever publisher that you used managed to release them through Walmart. As a kid, one of the things that I think would made a lot of people of my generation, my age, and to get into comics was the accessibility of comics.
Right. Yes.
I mean, my parents used to take me to the little bodega on the corner in Brooklyn and have the spinner rack, and that's where I used to get my comics.
Right.
And I think that's true for a lot of us, going to the drugstore, what have you.
Yeah, I went to the drugstore.
Right,
I
the
go to the
drugstore.
drugstore, spin it. The drugstore right at the corner of my block. Spin it right.
If comics were really about kids still, if that's who you're aiming it towards,
nah,
you would release your comics in Walmart.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a smart move.
Yeah. The publisher, they made that decision.
Yeah.
I was actually brought in to write Bass Reeves. It wasn't, my character or my idea. At the behest of the artist, the brilliant David Williams.
Yeah.
They brought me in to write the series. And it was, their top seller, if not one of their top sellers, if not the top seller, for what I've been told. Even though I didn't think it kind of fit, the line, or, it was a good experience working with David, and the things he brought to the table. I had heard of Bass Reeves, but I didn't know much about him until I got the assignment and started to read up on him. And so I kind of wanted to treat him like, a little bit of Solomon Kane, a little bit of Batman. I mean, if you can look at the first issue cover, David Williams actually took the Batman image from the cartoon series.
Right.
And, I kind of did an homage. Yeah, I kind of did an homage. But, I had a lot of fun doing it. And, telling a story about a father with good, strong Christian values.
Right.
And imparting those to his son, And so that was pretty cool.
He's kind of like a real life superhero, And I thought the series was a great way to get kids to. A lot of kids don't know who Bass Reeves is. I was an adult before I came to realize or learn that the Lone Ranger, who was a hero of mine as a kid, was actually based on Bass Reeves.
Yeah. The jury's still out on that, to be honest, because there was also a ranger in Texas, and I think his name was John Hughes, who was also, one of the inspirations for, the character as well. So was it the real life Bass Reeves? Was it the real life John Hughes? No one really knows.
What's interesting though is that the Lone Ranger's real name, as you mentioned, the John Hughes.
Yes.
His real name was what? It was John Reeves. So if anything, it might very well have been an amalgamation.
Exactly. And
of
that's
those
what
two,
I think.
Of those two characters.
Yeah. And that's what I think.
Right.
Did you have a lot of fun writing that? Like, did you?
Yeah, because of the way David and I would bounce things off of one another. And once he told me the kind of style he wanted to use, kind of like an animation-esque style, or very stylized, it's like we could push some things, and that's what made it fun. I also used a little bit of some Clint Eastwood isms,
Right.
in there as well, but I thought it was interesting. It really did.
Yeah, so now I know that it was originally like the 3 issues and it was only sold at Walmart. Are there plans for it to be like made into a graphic novel
Yes.
or anything like that for just distribution? Because I was able to get the first issue.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the other 2. I'm still looking for the other 2.
Yeah. Well, it's coming out, the full trade paperback with all 6 issues in it towards the end of the year, from what I've been told.
Nice.
Yeah.
Black Comic Lords exclusive.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So you'll be able to read the story in its entirety once it's released.
That's what's up.
Is that? Do you know if that trade's going to have additional material in it, like new material?
Well, you know what? I don't know. I really don't know what their plans are. I'm sure David has done some pinups, that'll make the cut. But there's not going to be another Bass Reeves story. I mean, pretty much Allegiance is dead, and so once this or the rest of their books that come out, that's it, as far as I've been told. So,
all right. So let's go to the next one we have here, Derek.
But you will be seeing some more Bass Reeves stuff from me. So I'll tell you that one. Yes.
Well, I also mentioned because Bass Reeves
with a twist.
I also mentioned because Bass Reeves coming out, Taylor Sheridan's coming out the Bass Reeves series. It'd be great if they could make the trade come out somewhere around the time that this series hits to have some synergy going. I just personally would love for kids to be able to know that there's television shows out there and see the comics on the shelves and just I look. I've always appreciated, the idea of black cowboys and seeing that concept. And I think a lot of kids should have that experience of knowing black cowboys did exist. And in fact, were very prevalent in the Old West.
They said it was like,
in fact, I heard the term cowboy was a pejorative that they used to call the black cowboys. And then it just got, incorporated into the larger, reality of what cowboys were, and everyone started using it, to describe themselves.
Yeah. All right, Derek, let's try this next one. So, you go from doing the stuff with that publisher. What was it called? Allegiance Arts?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you start releasing books on your own platform, Darkstorm Comics.
Yeah.
Rise of Djinn.
Yes, some of them were on the other books I had done before were on Comixology.
Yeah.
But that once Amazon bought them, that whole platform went bluey.
Man, let me tell you, I'm still bitter about that. I own so many Comixology books, like a tremendously large Comixology library.
What happened? Did you lose it? Oh, you lost it. See,
well, I don't know how to access it. I try to go on there and look at the stuff, and it's like that the way the website is just it's not really user friendly at all.
I know you can't buy, like I'll read my books if it's Comixology. I'll read them on the phone, but you can't purchase them that way. I would have to like log on to a computer to purchase the book, and then I could read it that way, unless it was free on there.
So Rise of Djinn 3-issue series. You've got this main character, Tamara Brazil, who's a police detective, who finds out that her history, her heritage is very unique.
Yes.
She's actually a Djinn.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this story? I love this series, by the way. The art was fantastic.
It was good. The art was done by a cat named Elmo Bondoc, from South America, and he really put his foot in it. It's a story about a terminally ill police detective who discovers that she is actually a member of an ancient race of Djinn who are, poised to kind of take over.
And what's a Djinn for those who haven't read it?
A Djinn is the original ancient name for genie.
Right.
So, and it's a really cool story. I don't want to give too much away because, we're doing a Kickstarter on it that's coming up. Soon we're going to launch. Let me see. It's going to be September 11th. September 11th. Yes. September 11th. And we hope to do well with it. It's my first Kickstarter. And I hope, people support it. I think it's a good story. Yeah, I think it's a good story. Good, strong character. Of course, I like to give some shouts out to, things in my past, like, it's a sister who used to who was educated at Howard University, my alma mater. So,
Bicycle.
so I like that. That's right. HU, So, so I like that. But it really has some fun themes in there, talking about, the reality of such creatures, how it, interferes with her Christian faith, things like that.
Right.
A lot of the cool action, a strong character, who's principled, things like that. Learning how to turn, disaster into triumph, things like that.
Now,
So,
is the Jintara Rise of the Djinn? Is that going to be a sequel to the original series?
What it's going to be the original series plus new material.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
so it's going to be like a graphic novel.
Yes. OGN.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
All right.
Okay.
So, I mean, look, when you're ready to drop it, the Kickstarter, hit up our Black Superheroes Forever page and put it on there so we can help you promote that.
Look, I appreciate that. I really do.
All right.
Like
so what else we got there?
Pick it up.
So, you also did, for those who don't know, he wrote some of the comic book adaptations or continuations of the works that he did in film. I just wanted to mention that. Were these done under your Darkstorm Comics imprint as well?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
So are these available on your website?
Yeah, well, my website, unfortunately, is not working right now. And so we're trying to get a lot of the bugs, fixed. Like I said, they were available on Comixology through Amazon. But once Amazon took over, it just, messed everything up. So we're trying to get that straightened out. But I do sell them. And, when I make appearances around the country, at the various comic conventions, things of that nature.
Cool. So, I mean, look, next time you go to a con, shout out Kevin, see if you can get a copy of one of these. Now, we also talked about this upcoming work, this historical upcoming work called Shook. Now, those of you who have followed us for a while know that we've interviewed Brad Golan and Marcus Roberts on this. We've also interviewed Rodney Barnes and John Jennings, who are also contributing. Look, I love this particular image that Derek put together. I mean, this is what I refer to as a talented 10th of Black horror writers. I mean,
right.
just to have the amalgamation of this amount of talent associated with this book just blows my mind.
Yes.
My hat's off to y'all for coming together to do that.
Well, you really have to look at Bradley and Marcus, and they're the ones who basically created this assemblage. They had a vision. They were steadfast and passionate about it. And, they brought this thing together. So, all the praise, and glory about this project goes to them. These brothers were about their business, and I'm proud of them. And it's good to be a part of a book like this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Brad Golden just gave you a shout
out. What's up, Rod?
Can you tell us anything about the story you're going to be doing in this book? You have here listed here as Ezra the Hunter with Robert Castro doing the art.
Yes. Ezra is a book I've been working on for a while.
No spoilers.
I'll go ahead. Yeah. I won't spoil anything, but I'll go ahead and tell you. This was a character that was in my original I, Frankenstein script.
Okay.
And I was going to play that character. And it's just the beginning introduction of the character, but it's a character that you'll be seeing in the future.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, you'll be seeing him in
something else.
Yes.
Okay.
You mean beyond Shook? You're gonna see the character.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh
Oh,
yes.
nice.
Yeah, I'm shook. Yeah, yeah. In fact, can I share an image?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let me see.
Do you know how to do it on StreamYard? Or you want to send me the image to put up there?
Okay, I'll send you the image through.
Let's see. Put it on. Let's see. Just message me in Facebook, and I'll see if I can share it through there.
Okay, let me see if I can pull this Billy up. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna, if I can get it into this chat, or you know what, man, I'm gonna send it to you on Facebook.
Well, while you're doing that, I have a question.
Yes.
With Ezra, I know you're probably gonna tie him into like I'm guessing other Darkstorm properties. Do you have any plans on having any of the characters like intersect with each other, like crossover or anything like
Yes.
that?
Yeah. Most definitely.
Because
But
I'm going to tell
you know where it's apropos though. You know what I'm saying?
right. I'm going to tell you this is one of my favorite books right now. Just the Darkstorm book itself.
Oh, you like that?
I love this book, and I was just, I mean, because after I read it, I kind of saw some of the things that also tied into this guy. So I appreciate what you did. I love it.
We're gonna get
I
into
would
that
say-
in a second, James.
Yeah.
All right, so here's
Sorry.
the image.
Sorry, I was too excited. Oh wow!
Ezra the Hunter.
Yeah.
And this is a character that you were supposed to play in the I Frankenstein.
Yeah.
movie.
And I Frankenstein before they jacked it up. You know, but hey, that's the way it goes.
That's what's up. That's dope. I'm excited to see this.
That's nice.
Do you have any
Yeah,
idea when that book's gonna drop?
You know what? Not now. I have so many other things I'm doing. It's not even funny. Let me see what else I can show you. Some other images from the book.
Clockwork says we need more likes and subs if you care. Check it. AO Radio asks if you're going to be in Phoenix.
No, I will not be in Phoenix, but I will be in Tucson next week.
And
for the
then
Tucson
Richard
Con.
asks if you're going to be in Texas.
No, I have a convention in Minneapolis. I have one in Mobile, Alabama. And I think that's the only one until December, where I'll be at LA Con.
All right, so here's the latest image here. Wow.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's dope.
I can't wait to read that.
Yeah.
I mean, I did the Kickstarter for Shook. I'm just waiting. I mean, it's like everything else.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah, so it's cool.
B Real's in the building. He says he'd love for you to come do Alaska Comic Con. Yes, there are brothers in Alaska.
Yeah. You know, I actually used to be one when I was a kid. My father was stationed in Fairbanks, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I remember living in Alaska back when I was a wee lad.
And then Austin Crafton asks, what do you think of them making a Blue Marvel action figure?
You know, I thought it was cool. I didn't like the fact that he lacked the gray on the temples.
Right.
But, you know, I realized that, you know, it's probably a lot, you know. But
I'm
yeah,
still bitter he doesn't have his
I thought it was a good sculpt. I would have liked the original costume.
Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
grab the figure. I did get it, but I was like, why couldn't they do like a twin pack where you get the original
Yes,
classic figure and then get the newer one, or at least be able to have interchangeable parts.
exactly,
So
exactly,
it's a cape.
exactly.
I mean, the cape alone.
I love this comment from our boy Amir. Now I need you, Rodney Barnes, David F. Walker, Chuck Brown, and Sanford Green to create a Black Ops universe. Bro, that would
yeah. We'll see.
Oh man,
we will see.
Bitterroot meets Ezra, the hunter. That would be crazy. Shout out to Spec Collector for his super chat. Appreciate it. Every little bit you guys sends us helps us do stuff like we're doing now. So we really appreciate that. All right, so let's go into a book that I'm excited to talk about.
The one I jumped the gun on. My apologies.
One James is so excited he couldn't even wait for us to bring it up. I got a signed copy too.
See, yeah, but yeah, this right here, yeah.
Now, I mentioned this before. This is like Kevin's. I don't like to use the word revenge, but this is kind of like some revenge.
I was thinking that when I read it, and I saw the cameo of just saying,
right?
I'm like, is that? Oh, I mean, I would never give away the book at all, but just that little bit that you threw in there, overall, to me, it was a phenomenal story. That's why I was asking about like world building. I'm just curious if you're going to expand on this, because you introduced so many characters in this book, and I'm sitting there like, that character's cool. I like that team. What's he going to do with that? And it's like, if anybody who was a fan of Blue Marvel, whatever, just pick this up if you can, because it's an amazing read. At least
I want to share just this one panel. Let's see if I can
see. I wasn't going to do that. See, you
right here. Can't see it. Is it right over? Crap. I'm never good at doing this. Yeah, right here.
Right.
Let me tell y'all, there are a lot of mainstream superheroes that are in this book. They may not have the names, but they're there. Kevin has a little funny fun.
Are changed to protect the
Kevin has a little funny fun at the expense of these mainstream superheroes in this book, because my boy Darkstorm bodies everybody.
Yeah.
This is an outstanding book.
And the thing I really liked, I mean, I obviously went with this cover. I think this is probably the more popular cover. I don't know. But there's like three covers. The Lashley cover, right?
Yeah.
And I know there was two other covers.
Yes.
I actually liked the one, oh my goodness, I think it was cover B.
Yeah, with the Vitruvian.
Yes.
And yeah. I like that one too.
Yes.
Just one other panel I want to share.
See, now
one other panel I want to share is this. Let's see. Can I see it right here? Dr. Bernard.
Yeah, see, I wasn't gonna.
I took a double take because I'm like, Brashear? No, wait, no, it's Bernard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Bernard's my middle name, so.
And I saw you. Just one last thing. I saw you gave out a shout out to your frat.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, you know I have to.
But you know, I don't want to give spoilers because it's a fantastic book, and I don't want to underwhelm that. Undermine that. Can you tell us what this book is about?
This is basically this is my superhero. Even more so than the Blue Marvel I created when I was a kid. You know. But essentially it's about a character who, after a lifetime of being, he's a military man, and after a lifetime of being dissatisfied with what he perceived to be superhero indifference towards humanity and their interference in like military affairs, things like that, this former Marine has to deal with his new place in the world once he actually gains superpowers for himself.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a question of putting his money where his mouth is, so to speak. And comes to realize it's not as easy as he thought it would be, but at the same time, if you're going to take up the mantle of hero, this is what needs to be done. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to make everybody happy, but it's about humanity. It's about, being the type of hero that inspires and that takes care of business. You know what I'm saying? When it needs to be taken care of. And so, this first issue is kind of like it takes place after the actual origin, which is coming up, that was actually done by myself and Ken Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you might have heard about it. It's the one I'm doing with Charlemagne.
Charlemagne the God?
Okay.
Yeah. And let me see if I can show you that cover.
While you're looking at that, a couple questions pop up here.
So,
Have you ever thought about having your own action figure line with your characters only?
of course, who doesn't?
I think you have that on your website, right? Didn't you have a picture
Yeah.
of?
I had some action figure designs that were done, and if you look at the back of the Darkstorm book, you'll see some of the designs.
Right.
That I had done. The issue is though, funding that. That's expensive. Getting action figures done are expensive. And so, who would I get to actually, come along and do those? Because I think the way it works is that there might be.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, see.
I might have a couple people. I might send your way about on that point.
Yeah. They are not. Yeah, they are not. They're not easy to reproduce. Hold on.
Another question that popped up here was: is Blue Marvel the only black superhero who has sons? Well, not in all comics, because there are other comics where black superheroes have sons. I mean, most recently, shout out to Godhood Comics on the Antagonist. There was also a series called The Joneses that came out, several months ago. But in terms of being in the mainstream comics, the big two, Marvel and DC,
with a son,
who has a son?
Yeah.
Black Lightning had daughters. Mal Duncan, I don't know what type of kids him and Bumblebee had in the 2 issues. They were a family.
Luke Cage has a daughter.
Luke Cage has a daughter. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, in an alternate universe, Storm and Black Panther got.
Yeah, but
I'm
talking about consistently in a series.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think.
That's a real thing.
Blade has a daughter. Oh, you know what? Everybody got daughters. Blade's got a daughter.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Savage Dragon has 2. Savage Dragon has 2. And now Michael Holt does. Is Michael Holt's child a boy? I didn't realize that. I know he had a kid that I didn't know was a boy. Rocket has a son. We able to find the image?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what, man? I wasn't able to find an image that I can download. It turns into like a web file or something like that. So, let me see.
Let's see. Going along in the chat here. Let's see. We have. Oh, so True Folks is asking if you're going to be in Los Angeles.
Yes, I'll be at the LA. I'll be at the LA Con.
Okay.
For sure.
And then
Okay,
AO Radio asks.
Okay, I found it. Okay, I found an image.
AO Radio asks, have you ever thought about getting with Tyler Perry and seeing if he could be interested in superhero movies with your characters? Look, Tyler Perry's got all that money coming from Marvel and his studios. If he hasn't thought about doing his own superhero line by now.
Well, look, I actually had a meeting over at 34th Street, and I had a standing deal with Lionsgate to do a Vindicators animated movie.
Really?
Yeah. And we went to Tyler Perry's company because he said he was interested in superheroes. Now, this, I can't remember what year it was, but we gave it to him. His people were excited, but ultimately, he said he didn't understand it.
Okay.
Wow. And I was like, okay, well, fine.
Here's the image you just shared with us. Now, who's the artist on this?
Ken Lashley.
It looks like Ken. Yeah, it looks like Ken Lashley.
Yeah, Ken Lashley.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's going to be a large, 230-page book.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When can we expect this?
Hopefully soon.
Is that going to be through your website, or is that going to be?
No. This is going to be Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster. Okay.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it's going to be a big one.
Spec Collector's asking, what will be the print run of Darkstorm, and hopefully it won't be printed on demand?
No, it's not going to be printed on demand. I can't tell you what the print run is. I have as many as people need. That's all I can say.
And then John Ramos asks, would you be down with collaborating with Robert Townsend on writing a Meteor Man project?
That's his. I don't think I am into that kind of comedy, with superheroes. Now I say that, and I actually created a book called The Addams Family that was on Comixology, which was, kind of like my, I hate to use this comparison because they're much different, but like the Black Incredibles, because I created it, well before the Incredibles, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I have that. I'm going to put that out again. And that was and that would be fun. I think people get a kick out of that one.
Lord of Brooklyn asks, have you ever had any interactions with Reggie Hudlin and the late Dwayne McDuffie?
Yes, I have.
That's great. For those of you who are asking where you can get Kevin's books, we've downloaded the link in the chat, so you can click on that and take a look at all of what Kevin has to offer. Derek, let's move on to our next thing we have here. So is your website that we were just talking about. All right, so just wanted to mention, because we're here to support Black creators.
Right.
One of our favorites is Jeffrey Thorne.
Yes.
And I heard you did some voice work for him.
Yes.
On his Red Jack animation series. So that's dope. Just shout out to, I just wanted to mention that because you do a lot.
Oh, yeah. Jeffrey's a cool brother.
He's a cool brother. Every chance I can get to support him, I will.
Yeah.
All right. So here's something I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Now, this is Black Comic Lords. And, we have a lot of discussions in this space about the importance of recognizing and uplifting and educating people on these Black superheroes and characters that are in these comic books.
Yes.
Marvel and DC have made efforts to try and be more inclusive and diverse. DC, even more prominently over the last couple of years, has made a push to, show more Black characters in their books.
Right.
But one of the things that we have these debates about is in this space all the time. It always comes up. People bring it up all the time. Is why can't we have more original Black characters? And DC did this promo for what was the time? What was the promo on this? Was it it wasn't Dawn of DC? It was before that. I don't remember, but this is only probably about a year ago, where
Right.
DC was really promoting the fact for Black History Month. Here's all our Black characters, and you made a very important observation. Can you talk to us about this?
Yeah.
Because the media got a hold of this and it became Kevin Grevioux is against inclusivity, or just all types of crazy headlines and stories got twisted.
Exactly. I mean, you know how the internet is.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this cat who runs Bounding into Comics, he's like lurking on my social media, making articles out of my posts to, my audience. You know what I'm saying?
I knew exactly what you meant when you read this, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to explain.
And so my thing is, you say you're about Black creativity and diversity and inclusion, but what you do is you give us Black versions of white characters who don't have their own identities, as if they just came into being because the white character existed first. And I think that's disingenuous, and it's wrong, and it's uncreative, and it's lazy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, do we really need a Black Superman? What's wrong with Icon? Right. There's a Black Wonder Woman now, Black Aquaman or Aqualad or whatever. You couldn't create original Black characters. It's easy. Now, here's the thing. I mentioned earlier that there may be a business component. You're talking about the corporatization of characters. And so one of the ways you protect those characters when it comes to them appearing in different mediums is by creating different versions of them. And this has been done since the 40s. You look at Superman, Batman, or what have you. You have to have a kid version, a female version, an evil version, a future version, an animal version. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
A villainous version. So I understand some of that. But once you have a marginalized group that you wouldn't let into the industry, it's almost as if you're saying, okay, we're now going to let you in, but we're only going to do it on our terms. So we're going to create the Black character for you that reflects you, and you better like it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what these legacy characters say to me. That's what I don't like. You can have a Black character, but you better like the ones we give you. And that's it. And I reject that.
Yeah.
We need to create our own. Now, I made a mistake maybe by giving Marvel the Blue Marvel, but hey, I got Darkstorm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And all these cool things I was going to do with the Blue Marvel, I'm doing with Darkstorm and the new set of Black characters that I create. Now, it is kind of a proud, heady, experience when you are able to create a character that is featured in your, in the company that you grew up really liking and being inspired by. But it's not the same company anymore with the same people.
Right.
It's a different day and age now. And so now we need to take that inspiration that we might have gotten from them and do our own thing. Like, I make sure that when I go to these conventions, I look at some of the stuff that the brothers are doing, and I'll buy $20 worth of independent comic books from these guys. You know what I'm saying? Because I support what they do, and I know they're trying to do it, and I know how difficult it is. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what I think we ought to be doing. And so, like I said, going back, there are some of these characters that I think are okay. Like, okay, look at Jon Stewart. Well, you know what? He was created at a time when there wasn't an agenda or there wasn't any pandering. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Just like Guy Gardner, maybe. That's what DC did. I mean, a lot of people, if you really want to look at it, both the Flash, or I should say Barry Allen, Hal Jordan, Oliver Queen, they're both, all three of those are legacy characters, if you think about it. Because there were golden age iterations of those characters. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's not like this is a new thing. I just think when it comes to us, they're going too far. Now, the other side of that, though, is, if you had a chance, knowing you're not going to get paid, knowing there's a chance this character is going to be on television or in the movies, and you're not going to get any money, or at least not much, would you give them your original character? You can make all that money yourself. Now, you might not make as much because you don't have DC or Marvel's PR machine. You don't have their wide reach. But you know what? At least you own it all. At least you own it all. And I think that's the important thing. So it's not how much money you make, per se, but it's how much control you have over your own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we should strive for.
Right. To your point, specifically on this post that you had made, you even mentioned for the just before we get into, I'm sure this will be replayed at some point, and people will be like, "Oh, he's anti-DC, he's anti." It's not about that. It's not about that at all. Kevin grew up reading these comics just like I had. We love these characters.
Same here.
That's not the point. The point is, you have the opportunity, if you really want to be, and I'm speaking in general, not just to one particular company. If you have the opportunity to be inclusive and to show some diversity, you don't have to necessarily focus on Black versions of existing white legacy characters, particularly when you're big companies like Marvel and DC, and you've got a huge repertoire of original Black characters. He mentions a handful right here. What about Bronze Tiger? What about Tyrock? What about Crimson the Avenger? What about Bloodwind? Why aren't we seeing those characters in these books? Why is it always the Black version of Superman or Batman or Aquaman? When you've got all these great creative minds that have created these other characters, let's try and promote those. You've got them. Promote them. Give people what they want. I understand the business model of we got to stick with what's tried and true and what people recognize, but sometimes people kind of get tired of seeing the same characters and they want to see some. This is why independent comics are blowing up.
Yeah,
they want
I got to tell you, man, independent comics are the way to go. I think in terms of quality and creativity, independent comics are blowing away Marvel and DC. They're not making as much money. But if you want old school fun or good storytelling or originality, you're going to have to go the independent route. That's
Image,
where it's at.
Boom, Concrete,
Exactly.
Advent, Godhood.
Yeah, Zombie
just
Love.
go down the list, man.
Zombie Love Studios. I'll buy anything that Rodney Barnes writes. You know what I'm saying?
Rodney Barnes could write on a napkin and I'll
Yeah, exactly. That brother can write an obituary, and I'll read it.
I mean, yeah,
exactly.
Rodney Barnes.
Exactly. So you look at stuff like that from John Jennings. Look, that's what I'm talking about. Stuff like that. That's what we need more of. Yeah. But look, I still like Marvel and DC.
As do I.
I still like, the Fantastic Four and the Hulk are still my favorite characters.
Just release yourself from the shackles of these existing paradigms and go back to being creative again.
Yeah. Exactly. And the way it works now, it seems like the storylines are coming from the editors. They're editorially driven, and then they get a writer to come in and execute what their vision for the title is, But, a lot of these writers, I just don't think they're going to give away their great ideas. They're not,
We have a good question. A good question in a super chat from I Am Waf. Hey, Kevin, first of all, thank you for your donation. Appreciate it. Hey, Kevin, what are your thoughts on some of the success that Image Comics has been having with Invincible, Walking Dead, and Bitterroot being adapted?
Great. That's the way it should be. A lot of people say that they don't necessarily like the way people are trying to get their Netflix series or whatever. I'm like, why not? That's how you make your money. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You come up with an IP and you get that bad boy sold as a TV show, a movie, or a video game. That's where the money is.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Exactly. I see nothing wrong with that.
Particularly if they give you some creative control where you get to have them be consistent with the original source material.
And make sure you're getting your residuals behind it, because
exactly. So when I look at Robert Kirkman or David Walker, you know what I say about them.
Right. Salute you.
That's right.
Shout out to Wraith X7 also for his contribution. He says, "Why does Marvel kill, maim their black characters?"
Well, what the thing is, if you're talking about, like, let's say Black Goliath, I think they killed, when I was a kid, they killed Thunderbolt, which was a black speedster.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way Moses Magnum was treated. I thought he made a great villain, but he only had one good showing. Yeah. And then he became a punk after that.
He should be up there with like Dr. Doom and
exactly.
Mr. Sinister right now.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows, man? A lot of it might be because of the lack of black editors.
I've been saying that forever.
Yeah, but I don't know if that would solve anything, because black editors are naturally going to be afraid, or at least skittish. And they're going to have to explain themselves when, you hire, a black creative and they don't work out. You know what I'm saying? Or they're going to be hesitant to hire us because then they'll be accused of favoritism. So they're in quite a pickle, and that's just the way it works. And I've heard things from white editors, that will be open about this, about how, they have to deal with the politics of hiring people they know as well. It's the industry, the creative industries don't work on logic. They work based on perception. And the politics are endemic within the creative industries. I think are what are killing it now. I really do.
Spec Collector says, Kevin, what about getting an option for Darkstorm as CGC SS? And how about getting a CGC signing event?
I mean, if they were to ask me, I have no problem with it. But You know.
Kevin's got a lot of books. Just check it out. He's written a lot of stuff that you may not even realize. Let's go on to the next one, Derek. Thank you for talking to us about this particular topic. This is a real important one, and I really wanted to expand upon this.
Yeah. This is another book I hope to kickstart again. Let me show you this image. Some of you might remember it from back in the day, one of my first books.
Oh yeah, you just mentioned this too. Yeah. Let's pull this up. Vindicators. Explain the squad.
Oh wow.
Yeah. You know, this was, you know, it was my attempt to create a black superhero team.
Yeah.
And, you know, Darkstorm had come from our universe into the Vindicators universe. But what was interesting about it, it was kind of like, remember that movie, White Man's Burden?
Uh-huh.
With John Travolta,
where everything
was, yeah, where everything was
very much like the comic book Black Cotton, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah. So this was an Earth where Africa was the center of the planet and not America or Europe.
Right.
And so it was whites who were enslaved, you know, there was white, you know, oppression of whites, things like that. And the Vindicators were the world's premier superhero team, much like the Avengers or the Justice League are, you know, in their respective universes. And so that's what the story was about, you know, essentially. And but now I'm going to rethink the concept, and I'm going to put this out again with some new packaging and some new pages too.
Please do that. Everything you just said. Everything you just said, I am excited to read. Please work on this.
You know,
do a Kickstarter if you need it. We'll help you promote it.
You know,
I want this book to be made.
I think this book was 26 pages, and I think the book that's going to be coming out is 98, if I'm not sure. So I have a lot more pages.
Terrell Williams, thank you for your donation. He asked, why hasn't Static Shock got a movie yet? Jon Stewart, Val Zod, and Lex Luthor from the animated series stayed black, and Starfire was black too.
Well, I don't work for Milestone, so you'll have to ask them.
I think someone had asked if you would ever work with Milestone.
Oh, you know, I've tried. Back when Dwayne was alive, I was slated to take over Hardware.
Okay.
But but that was their first comeback since the old days.
Yeah.
But then that deal didn't happen. And then, you know, for whatever reason, you know.
Oh, so this is back when they were trying to come back, not the original Hardware, but
no, not the original Hardware. This was so when did Dwayne McDuffie die? 2011?
Yeah, around 2011.
Okay, so 2010 is when I was slated to take over Hardware when it was going to come back around. Yeah. If you remember, I think there was an announcement.
Right.
And then that whole project, that whole plan to bring Milestone back went away.
Yeah.
And so then after he died, there was they've been trying to get it back ever since then, and it finally happened last year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've tried it, you know, on occasion, but you know, it never really worked out for whatever reason.
Well, now you're on to bigger and better things.
Exactly.
With Darkstorm Entertainment, and we look forward to seeing more of what you are going to produce for us. Derek, do we have anything else? I don't know if he's shaking his head or not.
No, I don't think so.
No, that was it.
That was it.
So look, Kevin, we really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
It's truly a blessing to have you on here. And as I said, you are our original interview. To have you back, you know, almost 3 years later, it's a big deal. And we really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate
Anything we can do to help you promote your work, please let us know. We're here for you, and we hope you come back. There's something that we started much after we first interviewed you, where whenever we interview people, we like to consider them to be a part of our family, that you're now a Black Comic Lord. So we'd like you to say, I'm Kevin Grevioux, and I'm a Black Comic Lord.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
I'm Kevin Grevioux, and I'm a Black Comic Lord.
That's what's up. And I love the fact that you got to say it in that incredible voice that you have, that I'm quite frankly very envious of.
Right. Okay,
look. To all the fans out there, we have a slate of other videos that you can watch. We have our Wakandi Whiskey and Blurredom show that I do, happy hour, periodically on Fridays, late night happy hour, where me and my boy Mark get drunk and talk about whatever. Real Talk with Rich, much more substantive show. He does deep dives, and you get to hear his thoughts on comics and the world. And our Black BCL ladies do their periodic lives in which they talk about their deep dives into Black women characters. We also have a slate of interviews that we've done in the past. We've got Ken Quattro coming up again with his series talking about the golden age Black comic creators. I don't remember which is our next creator that we're going to talk about, but I know it's going to be in the next few weeks. So please be on the lookout for that. We have a repository of other interviews we've done in the past. I think there's another page here, Derek. Yep, there they are. So please check out our website, blackcomiclords.net, and you can follow us on social media on Black Comic Lords. And we appreciate you staying and watching with us. Please, if you haven't already, like this video. If you like this content, like it, share it on your social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll know when we do these videos in the future, and it really helps us do what we do. So until next time, we want to again thank Mr. Kevin Grevioux for spending his time with us, and we'll see you again. Thanks.
Okay, you guys take care.
You too, sir.
Okay.
What's up?
Bye.